Good evening, Greenville Avenue family. Greenville Avenue tonight presents Family Relationship and Marriage Matters Seminar. We all were very excited with the wonderful job that Brother Hubbard did on Sunday morning services. And tonight, he brings along with him, by his side, his wonderful wife, Laura Hubbard. This powerful couple will be dealing with strengthening your family system tonight. And we're very much looking forward to their presentation and certainly the impact that they will have on the families at Greenville Avenue Church of Christ. At this point in time, without any further delay, I present to you the Hubbards.
We're thankful for this chance to share with you in this experience. Thank you for the invitation to be here and for the invitation to enjoy a wonderful tornado this morning here inside the city and the chance to share this moment together. My wife and Laura and I are looking forward to our time together to share important concepts that build on the relationships of our family, identifying the blended family impact. The theme for our time together addresses several dynamics of our family relationships, and we want to focus on three core areas on tonight. We're going to talk about to explain why our families are in the place they're in, what are the dynamics that have happened to put us in this interesting spot where families are. We'll talk about blended families and how they operate, and explain to you what a family system is, to understand how that relates to your family. The presentation will be sent to you in some context, but in the meantime, stay with us if you could. I believe you'll learn some things. We'll give you insight to the context of your family. Laura, it's good to have you, baby. How you doing?
Oh, it's just wonderful being with you on tonight, and we just can't wait to share all of the wonderful, powerful things we have to present to you in reference to the blended families, to the family system, and also to the Boomerang families. You know, those adult children that are trying to come back home. We're going to talk to you about that too.
So it's important to cover these areas and topics on tonight. I know it's a little bit later than anticipated being connected with us, but I know there's something we'll share with you to give you insight. First, we need to understand where our families were. To fully comprehend where you are, you got to go back and understand where you came from. There were 5 initial tasks performed in a family about 100 years ago. 5 initial tasks performed. These things were all done at home.
Yes, there was 5. And it was employment. The children learned how to work first at home. Education was learned at home. Security came from within the family unit. Religion was taught right there in the family system. And of course, relationships.
So these 5 components are important to understand because initially inside your family, children learn how to work. They would either work with their parents in the farm or what the context was. Even my father, who had worked at a plant, when he got off of work, he would pick me up and take him to work with him. So you learn employment and working from your home system. Secondarily, learn education. Parents thought it was their job to teach their children how to read and write. If a child did not learn that, mission is the responsibility of the parents to make sure they learn that. Thirdly, the idea of security was there. Because we have a large family of 8 or 10, 14 siblings, that's a lot of security. So you learn how to protect each other, and family looks out for each other in that context. And fourthly, inside the family, we have the sense of also a sense of religion. You learn about a connection with God. Matter of fact, the Bible is often used as a way to teach the idea of about reading and writing as well. And then relationships were extended because blended families were part of your personal family. What's changed is that has changed so drastically because now we actually find employment. It's not at home. And some young people have never learned the responsibility of working even from their home. Secondly, now if your child does not get an education, the school has failed my child. It's not my fault. It's my child has failed because the school has not done their job. So now we see education is not a responsibility of the home. Now it's a responsibility of the school system. Security is something that family doesn't necessarily protect each other. We expect the police to take the responsibility for us. And then even in addition to that, even religion now was seen as something accountable for. The church should do. If my child is not spiritual, doesn't know God, I have a connection with God, it's because somehow the church has failed them. And then relationships. We have people now who have not seen siblings or siblings or even met their nephews or their nieces for decades or ever because our families are so scattered now. The 5 things that made families find a connection has now been lost. It lays the foundation for the change you see now as you see families. In conjunction with the battle of these tasks families perform that no longer is taking place is also the barrier of what we call postmodernism. And to make it simplify it, we'll look at some components that affected postmodernism that impacts how we think right now and why it's there. It's for a good reason, but the reality of it is, it's key to understand how we think now and what's connected to our thought process. So for instance, I don't know about you, but I was coming up as a child. My parents told me from 1950 to 1975, you were kind of told, do what you're told. I don't care what adult tells you anything. Anytime an adult tells you something, you do it. We were actually told, if I ever find out an adult told you to do something and you didn't do it, there'll be consequences. Well, parents said that until they realized you can't trust all adults. So beginning in the 1980s, the emphasis came out called stranger danger. Don't trust a stranger. Strangers are people that you cannot trust. And then we realized the danger wasn't just with strangers. And so they expanded the idea and said, well, listen, 1980, 1995, roughly, they said, just trust close family members, just people close to your family. Then we discovered it's people close to the family. We're also molesting your children and putting them in danger. And then, of course, after that, we began to tell children about 1995 and further. We told kids, only trust yourself. So they have a mentality now that says, I've got to look out for my own benefit. So understand, this has led to what's called a postmodern ideology, where folks think a different kind of way. If it's bad enough that families have changed from those missions we talked about initially, and they changed from the idea of these components and time frame of where trust lies at. But an additional piece to this is that certain things also happen culturally, or I should say, as far as systems are concerned, that have affected us. We learned from Vietnam, you can't trust the military because they will send you out there. If you're poor or the wrong tone of skin, you'll find yourself being killed off, was a perception we realized. Then we learned from Watergate, you can't trust the politicians. They're just as crooked and they're lying as well, doing things they should not be doing. Then we learned from even Jim Bacon and Swaggart the idea that you can't trust preachers because these guys also have something hidden that they're dealing with that's wrong. Then we learned from Miss Smart, who was a teacher who had her students to go out there and kill her own husband. And because of that, we learned you can't trust teachers. And then we have the case of Miss Smith in Union, South Carolina, who actually drowned her two sons into a van and then said a black man had did that to her sons. So we learned from that experience that you can't trust the military, you can't trust the systems of the government, preachers, teachers, or your own mother. Therefore, we're in a world now that suggests you have to only learn to trust yourself. Only you can depend upon you. And because of that, it set a tone for how we think and function inside of our lives and the world we're living in. In conjunction with that, it leads us to understand now a family system. And what is the system of the family? What does that really mean, that my family has a system, and how do I function inside that system?
And whether you are a biological family or a blended family, every family, each family member has specific roles that they contribute to the overall harmony and the functionality of the household. And so there are 4 parts in every family system, and they are roles, rituals, stories, and values. And so the stories, the roles that is the first part in the family. And the roles are those parts that each family member contributes, right?
Yeah, and so when you think about roles, you learn inside your household. What do boys do? What do girls do? What does a man do? What does a woman do? And understand every family has a different conception of that. And so for some cases, you see the idea of roles are switched and changed because people have decided how to function inside their household. But you learn how do children respond to adults? How do adults respond to children? Do they listen in? Do they communicate? All these dynamics, you learn a sense of roles inside your family.
And I think about Ephesians chapter 5, 22 and 23. Those are specific roles that Christian families abide under, and where it says, wives, submit yourselves to your husbands, to your own husbands, and also as to the Lord, and for the husbands to love their wives like Christ loves the church. Yeah, because he gave himself for her, right?
Exactly. So this sense of roles, biblically, there are a set of roles established in Scripture. Here's the dynamic. The problem is that if you were not raised in a Christian home, you have not had the exposure to biblical ideas of roles. The point is to examine your own family, be aware, how do you see the roles in your family? We'll share with you how this fits in the bigger context of your life experience. So one thing, you have 4 components, Laura's alluded to, that make up your family system. You learn a sense of roles from your family. You've learned a perspective, who does the yard, who works. In some cases, families have a place where the father doesn't work at all. That's the sense of roles they've learned inside that household. You learn a sense of roles. What else do you learn, Laura?
Rituals.
Okay.
Of course, rituals. These are the repeated actions and the traditions that the family practice within the household. And they help create, Stanley, a sense of belonging and continuity within the family unit.
So rituals are basically the things your family does on a consistent basis. We take a vacation every year. That's a ritual. We go to worship together every Sunday. That's a ritual. We eat together at the house together. We do yard work together. We play games together. We make trips together. Whatever the dynamics are your family does on a consistent basis, those were the sense of rituals your family experienced. These are the things that you did consistently as an integral part of your family. You learn a sense of roles in your family system. You learn a sense of rituals, the components of things that you did on a consistent basis. Maybe the family went out to eat once a month or made a trip every year. Whatever those dynamics are, those are the rituals of your family. You learn roles, you learn rituals, and then you learn...
And then you learn stories.
Stories.
Yes, I learned a lot of those in my family system. Stories are powerful tools because they teach us to preserve our family history, and that's very important. And I love in the Bible how those stories are passed down from the teachings that we see in the Word of God.
So much of the idea of family stories are like we call oral traditions, where you pass down the information about your family through your family line. You saw the movie Roots. Kunta Kinte got his foot cut off. I mean, they told you about the family origin. And these stories are important because they give you insight. Grandparents and ancestors are essential to give understanding of what has our family gone through to get to where we are. One of my father gave me a family story of how raised in L.A., that's Louisiana, of course. And he said that in the wintertime, when it was cold outside, they'd have newspapers stuffed in the cracks in the wall. He said, and we would, before going to bed, they have the fire raging, and we get in front of the fire, he said, and get the front of my body as hot as I could, and I turn around and get the back as hot as I could, and he said, turn around again and get the front as hot as I could, and the back one more time, and I'd run, he said, and jump in bed, and try to fall asleep before you got cold. That's a family story. But what it does, it tells you what people have gone through. Your children need to know what your family's battles have been. The Bible emphasizes this idea. Even God always wanted his people to know what he's done into their history and their past. His concept of thankfulness and appreciation was to extend even to now what he's done for Israel. The things he's done in your family system life before you were born are important for you to comprehend those things and value them. So family stories give an insight for you to understand what we've come from and who we actually are right now. Family stories are a key part of understanding your family system.
And then the fourth part within the family systems are values. The values are the principles that guide our behavior and our decisions within the household. And as Christian families, you know it's important for those teachings to be rooted deep within us, because we believe that God is our guide and leader over our lives, our souls, really.
And so those values are really key to understand. This is the reason why you look in some families, maybe it's the Bush family, 3 or 4 are in a political experience, the Kennedy family, 3 or 4 in a political experience. It's the same reason why you see somebody in prison and daddy, uncle, grandpa, and uncle, and everybody's been in prison. Matter of fact, some would say, you're not a part of this family if you're not spending time in prison, because the family has a set of values and standards it lives by. Are we an honest family? Are we a fair family? Are we loving family? Are we a grudge-driven family? Are we holding on to things that upset us? Are we criminals as a family? Are we the kind of family that's always doing something wrong? Do we support each other? Do we love each other? Your value system is also built inside of this. So understand this: the 4 components of your family system, roles, rituals, stories, and values, are key to comprehend. Because before we go further to explain the dynamics of this, you've got to realize these are the things you caught at home. They've taught you principles inside your household that's led you to where you are. And before you connect with someone, you need to comprehend what those define about your past, your history.
You know, it's very important, Stanley, before we go to this next section, to understand that our family systems we bring with us into our married relationships, into blended families, into the biological family system. And it is important that when we become one, that we create a new family system, whether you are blended, whether you are a biological family. And that it's important to understand why.
And there's a little diagram we have here, which may be difficult to pick up on. You'll see it later. But it does amplify an emphasis that Laura wants to share with us to explain the impact of your system and how these four components affect everything of your experience. And she'll illustrate by sharing two different families.
So my family system, before I married Stanley, consisted of 5 girls and 2 boys, right? And my mother and my father. And when my mother, and we learned a role of, we learned a set of values, we learned a set of roles, rituals, and stories from my mother and father. And then my mother separated from my father and she got together with someone else. Yes. And so we learned another set of roles, rituals, stories, and values. I'm going somewhere, stay with me. Then she left that one and she got together with a third fellow. And we learned a third set of roles, rituals, stories, and values. And yes, you guessed it, she got together with the fourth one. And we learned a fourth set of roles, rituals, stories, and values. The fifth one. But before the fifth one really got rooted into the family system, she said, forget about everything that anyone has ever told you. Only listen and pay attention to what I tell you. So then here we go. We're learning another set of roles, rituals, stories, and values. And that's very important to understand. Because it could bring with it some troubles and some conflicts and some trials when you carry those types of roles, rituals, stories, and values when you connect to your partner later on.
So when you have this family dynamic taking place, you have this variety of experiences, then you can have had a person in the household who was on drugs and addictions, and you learn a set of roles, rituals, stories, and values from that person. You can learn a dynamic of what happens when the person that you're engaged in goes to some church experience somewhere, but it doesn't gravitate to their life, so therefore the child learns not to trust that. Just like we talked about Laura, she shared her family system. My family system is very different. My parents were added to the family of God before I was even born. I was, as we said, raised up in the church in that context, and they taught one clear set all my life of roles, rituals, stories, and values. My sense of what my role is, my sense of what my story, my family story was. Our rituals in the family were clear, and the values were very clear. So I had a very clear set of those that in my own personal experience. Laura, being the oldest of 7 children and coming from a household mainly led by a woman, by a mother, compared to mine mainly led by a man, offered some natural conflicts when we began to define how do you function in this world relationship. When you add these two pieces together and we finally come together as a family, people have a different perspective that begins to blend us together and make a certain kind of change. When the two families come together, all of a sudden, the conflict and tension we sometimes have is really because we've had different sets of roles. I've seen men in a certain capacity. I've counseled families where actually it's been the case that some women have only had access to their aunts and their grandmother and other women in their household, and have never seen a man ever being healthy in a household. So she has no context of what a man's function is, what he's supposed to become in a household. She's never seen one. So her assumption is that if he's not what I think he should be, he's not being a man at all. When in reality, he may really be the man that he needs to be. But the point is simply this. When we come together, we have to understand that we bring different experiences to this relationship. relationship, we're going to have to create our own sense of roles, rituals, stories, and values, and understand that's what we're creating. Because if not, we hold to some foreign ideas of our past and drag them together, and we're conflicting because your experience is not my experience, my ideology is not your ideology, and I'm going to have my way, and you're going to have your way, and we're not going to make this work together.
And it's just trifling for you to leave the toothpaste tube off the toothpaste.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to roll your toilet paper forward, not under.
That's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Your family was trifling. They know how to pull the stuff right. The way I did it in my household was the right way. The way you did in your household is the wrong way. And because your family is wrong, it's wrong all the way around because only my way is the right way to do it.
And by the way, that's my son. So you don't ever talk to my son that way.
Well, all I know is that a man gonna set the law up in here. That's all I'm trying to say.
If you haven't figured it out, we are a blended family too.
Exactly.
So we carry a lot of experience from how to handle conflicts with families.
So as we alluded to already, understand this first of all, that it's really key to understand some of the historical dynamics that have brought us to this place. The distinction between how families function as far as working and training your children, to the impact of postmodern ideologies affected our world. In many ways to protect our children, which have now made them feel that they have the only personal answer. They've got to look out for themselves. Once that's established, then you realize the impact of the family system itself, these four major components that you each have learned separately and independently, and trying to come together. And the key in coming together is realizing that they may be different. It's not that one is right and one is wrong. They're just different.
Yeah, like we've heard it. Why doesn't my husband tell me he loves me?
Yeah.
You know.
And as some men would say, I told you I love you when I married you. If I change my mind, I'll let you know. So, but the point is that's because maybe a person raised in a household where they didn't see affection, they didn't see love, they didn't see care. You can only do what you've been exposed to, and that's the pattern and the fight that we're having. So we've talked about understanding the system that we're coming from and the components that have affected our family system as well. But now we need to add another component to this discussion. We're going to step and focus on blended families in this context because they have a real battle on their hands.
Yeah. You know, I looked at some research, and according to Lifeway research, it says that 42% of married members in the Lord's church are blended families. That's startling.
It is. But when you think about the reality of this, I want you to realize blended families is really not a new thing. It's really not. I mean, you look around with it, this is a whole family here, and let me just share and honestly with you, you'd be surprised how many families, if you've not talked to them, even in the church, are blended families.
That's yours. That's mine.
And then it's ours.
Then it's ours.
Yeah.
Right?
So let's understand this idea of how that affects relationships. Did you know that there's several families in the Bible that are blended? Abraham had a blended family. Him and Sarah were together, and then
Jacob.
Sarah decided that it's time to have a child. Apparently, God is taking too long. He must have meant for me to do something. So she gives her handmaiden to Abraham, and now you got Ishmael and you got Isaac. He's got a blended family. If you want to see his trauma, let two women get into conflict. I'm sorry, that's not the lesson. Let's get off of that. So the point is that if you want to see a challenge, you'll notice what happened inside the house of Abraham. This tension began to build into the place that she was run off with her son. But that's a blended family right there in Abraham's family. And let's not forget the next big, huge, important blended family. Jacob's family. Here's a man who's got 4 baby mamas. I mean, he's got 2 wives. He's got 2 girlfriends, you could say, and they all got kids for 12 boys from 4 different women. You talk about a family of trouble and turmoil to deal with. He lived in a lot of drama, but that's a blended family right there in the context of your Bible. Brothers killing brothers because of the dynamic of those difficult relationships, selling each other off, that's also there. A third family in Scripture that you can discover that's a blended family is David's family. I mean, David had sons and daughters, and he had one son, Amnon, who raped his daughter, his sister Tamar. You got Absalom come back and killing Amnon. I mean, you're talking about family drama and family difficulty. You're talking about a blended family in turmoil and pain and struggle and stress. David had a family that actually was a blended family. Blended families are not anything new. And we can go further with another guy by the name of Solomon. 700 wives, really? And 300 concubines? How many kids you think he had at the house? I want you to realize that here's another family full of trauma and drama taking place. We're looking at a blended family with turmoil and stress. Yeah. Blended families are all over Scripture. One more important family I would tell you about is blended.
Yes.
That's our Lord's family.
Yes.
Joseph and Mary were together, but Joseph was not his father. So I want you to realize even Jesus himself was coming up in a blended family. Blended families are a natural part of the world that we're living in, and even in Scripture and even today. So we need to talk about and understand some dynamics, because these families have the most stress and trial and frustration. As much as biological families hit the wall and have difficulty, but these blended families really do need support and help. So our intent right now is just to share some information about how to assist blended families in working through those stressful situations that can make it difficult for them to be together. We're going to begin by looking about how do blended families grow. It's interesting. It's really very simple and very basic. You talk about a biological family. They think about the dynamic of a biological family. Boy meets girl. Girl, you so pretty. What's your name? Ooh, I was married this one, so I marry her. Yeah. Now it's just the two of us. Then, bam, here come a little child. Oh, that's a baby over there. So now we get to know the child by ourselves, me and her, and I'm the dad, and that's the mom. We got to bond together. We bond. And then, bam, here come a second child who has a chance to get to know the older sibling and the parents together, and a third child. The process continues, and you expand your family dynamic, each one slowly coming in, building a relationship, building a natural bond. These are the biological families who develop from a slow, natural family additions. But there's another kind of family, blended families, who develop from immediate insertions of members who may not have the bond that is assumed. I even emphasize and teach that to understand this, when a person chastises a child who they don't have a relationship with, the child interprets that as torture. It's not that man chastised me, that man beat me, that woman doesn't like me. And so you got to understand, it's not as simple as saying that I love you and you love me and the kids gonna love us too. No, they're not. You chose that for your life. They didn't choose that process. So you got to understand, their minds are not where your minds are. You got to learn to think differently about building that relationship dynamic. It requires more work and exercise than that. Certain things we would advocate to help you and build blended families, and this information shall assist you in slowing the process down and addressing it. What should we consider, Laura?
Well, blended families are more successful when there is healthy parent-child relationships already established.
Yeah. So the closer bonded the biological parent is with the child, the better opportunity for the family to work through the strain and stress of bringing two families together. What else should we consider?
But when you're a blended family, don't just assume that you are going to become one big, happy, cohesive unit immediately. It just doesn't happen at the snap of a finger overnight, blending your family as one unit.
That's your new daddy. Here's your new daddy. Come here, new daddy. Parenting is a non-transferable relationship. You cannot make somebody a father or make someone a dad. I've heard women say, well, I need to give me a man because I need my son needs a man around. My daughter ought to see a man around. It's a non-transferable relationship. If they don't already have the bond, you can't create a bond just because somebody's inside the house. As I've often said, standing in a garage does not make you a car, and being inside of a house doesn't make a relationship strong. So you can't assume that, well, we're going to get together and have a wonderful family. That's in your mind. That's not a reality. It's something you got to create. You can't even fully create it. It's really not even in your hands. Only the child decides the level of that relationship. You don't have that authority and power in someone else's life. So you can't assume you're going to snap your finger and get together and by this time next year we'll be one. No, we're not.
Because everyone in the family unit has to adjust at their own pace, right?
Exactly. So it's important to understand each person is different, and bonding together requires the essential component of taking the time to get to know each other, to have the conversation, to build through the struggles and the challenges that relationships require. And so it's key to understand that part of the component is being willing to wait the time out and give an opportunity for this adjustment to take place. But beyond that, you must be willing to demand respect, but not love. You need to love this person. You can't demand love out of a child for someone.
Yeah, that's earned.
That's earned. It's a relationship that you got to build. So pressuring to love and accept the new family member can breed resentment. So the answer is not saying you're going to do this like it or not, because you don't change the reality. A child can learn to act in a way that makes you feel okay, but you're really looking for the true change and the bond of a family. It requires certain steps. So how do we do this from the child's perspective? Laura, what's that?
Well, the children comes first. Right? Children come first. So in blended families, the children may feel like they have no defined place in the new family. And so therefore they may feel alienated. And this can create bad actions. Or they can act out in bad ways to get attention. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. So I think the point she's bringing out, of course, the idea that you have to be willing to give a child a chance to adapt to this relationship. And sometimes the bad actions a child has in a blended family, instead of trying to chastise them, or it's just maybe sometimes focus on trying to understand what's taking place here. Because sometimes this child feels displaced. They had a sense. And some mothers, you my little man. You my little man. It's my little man over here. And then when you get somebody, and now he's not a little man anymore. You confused him all these years by telling him he's something. Now he has to realize he's not that, and he's displaced. Where do I fit in the context of this family? Each parent should take every opportunity to address that child's feelings about this new family. To sit down, I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you're feeling about this as we adapt to this process together. It's not as simple as you love somebody and they move in with you or you move in with them. It requires more of a concentrated attention on what it takes to make a relationship bond together.
And we find that children that are under 10 adjust well to these opportunities that you share with them when they're coming into the family unit, while adolescents and teens don't adjust as well.
The older a child is, the less chance you have an adaptation that is simple. The younger they are, they may begin to see that person in a parental relationship, but it's not always the case. You just can't say this person is going to be the person responsible for you. You just can't transfer that. So the younger the child is, the better possibility. And the dangerous thing is realizing the child decides the relationship. You can't transfer that. And it's hard to accept that because you love someone doesn't mean the child's going to love that person. It's a different relationship. But there are steps that can be taken. We share those with you on how to move in that direction to make it stronger together.
Well, when you have to learn how to first draw parenting lines, because we are a blended family, then I play the bad cop. You play the good cop.
Exactly. And that's why that's so key, because the point is this: bad behavior is unacceptable, but take the time to understand underlying reason of the bad behavior. All of a sudden, this person sees me here trying to take direct responsibility for them. Your biological parent has been with you since you were born. They have a long-term bonding relationship with you. When the biological parent takes the action of chastising the child interprets that as an act of love, because after all, I've been knowing you all my life. I've been knowing this person here for a couple of years. And now they're going to step in here like we've been knowing each other for all my life and take action against me. It's hard for them to fully comprehend that. We advocate the idea that in this context, you want to begin by letting the biological parent take the primary role a lot of times initially of taking the action against the child in their misbehavior. Because by doing that, the biological parent has a relationship that they can therefore chastise without generating a strain in the bond. whereas the non-biological parent needs to focus on being, I call, a good cop, which means spend time understanding why the child feels frustrated instead of stepping in and saying, you're going to do this in this household. That doesn't work to build relationships. It's good for a prison, but not inside of a home. And all we're saying is that take the time to show a loving kind. It's beautiful to see how God blesses us by loving us into submission. And I believe by showing love and care and support, you can build a relationship that's healthy and strong. It's important that the new parent builds this relationship, so it's best not to begin with this adversarial context of, I'm going to put you in your place and make you but behave and do what you should be trying to do. When there's not a bond there at all, you're tearing up something that doesn't even exist as of yet. Good.
And so now there are reasons why blended families fail, right? And so we're going to just talk about just 4 of those reasons why families fail. And the first 2, I think we need to address are child rearing disagreements. What we disagree about in raising this child.
Yeah, as you alluded to, a child's response to correction is usually influenced by the relationship that exists between them and the corrector. So if you talk about disciplining a child rearing disagreements, we advocate this. You don't have to always agree, but you need to be agreeable in front of your children.
Yes.
I mentioned Sunday that all women have the same objective. All children have the same goal. All children have one clear goal. They want
their way.
They want to get their way. That's all
right.
they want.
They want to get
They're
their
not
way.
trying to divide you. They're not trying to destroy your relationship. They don't want you to fight with each other. They want their way. Now, if y'all decide y'all got to fight for them to get their way, that's your issue. If you decide that y'all going to be in conflict with each other and fight about it, well, that's my baby. You're not going to tell my baby that. They want to do what they want to do, and they can do it when they want to. If that's your perspective, the child is not necessarily trying to cause a conflict and a tension. Your child is trying to get their way. And so it's important that you always go in the back and have a conversation and come out with a united front. It's essential that your child feels that you guys are on the same page, even when you're not. But go have the conversation and come out together with a plan on how you can work together. Because if you don't do that, the divide and conquer is the key. Am I saying your children don't want you together? No. I'm saying they want their way.
Amen.
And if you understand what they're trying to achieve, you can make sure you're achieving what you must achieve. They need to see a united front at all times.
Yes.
As Laura alluded to, therefore, child rearing is a major issue when you have 2 different ideas about what should take place and not taking the time to hear each other and talk it through as a family relationship.
Not only is that an issue, but this is a big one. Finances and money.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And what's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine.
And what's mine is mine, and what's mine is mine.
So I was saying is that when there are financial issues in a family relationship, that becomes even just as destructive.
Yes.
When you're having a situation where this is my money and this is your money, I'm not advocating that you got to throw everything in a pot together from the beginning. I'm advocating the idea that you have a plan on how you're going to structure your finances, a plan that talks things through. The clearer you are on how you're going to handle things, the better chance you're going to come together in a smooth and productive kind of way. It's key to understand the essentiality of finances inside your family. Counsel couples where maybe she had some money from a mother who had passed on or some property, and he was, I'm your husband. Why I can't get access to the money? I mean, a lot of dynamics can mess your relationship up. But when you're coming together as full-grown people with plans and standards already, it's extremely essential that you have the conversation to talk about how these pieces fit together. But Laura alluded to finances would destroy your relationship as well.
A third reason why blended families fail is, this is a big one too, family, relatives.
Yeah.
They can really cause a lot of trouble.
I don't know what they saying at the house, but I'm going to tell you right now, he wrong. We don't do it in our family. Do your own thing, but you need to do this. Go take a hand in the situation. It don't make no kind of sense. If I were you, I would be doing this. If I were you, I'd make sure it happened. But you know what? I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like her. I don't like him. I don't like them, and it's all wrong. And if you don't do what I say do, I'm going to tell the family on you, because you got to handle this right.
And so now your family members can make a judgment about your significant other because you didn't share it all.
And here's the problem with that. And this is a marriage issue altogether, right? Because your family has one core responsibility, legitimately.
Yes.
Look out for your best interests.
Yeah.
And that's what they're supposed to do. Tell you, I'm concerned, I see this, I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I advocate the idea, it's important that your family feel they can talk with you. But you have to know how to decipher what people are saying and make a decision. You don't go tell your family everything happening. That's what a counselor's for. And you don't go tell your partner, they talked about you today. They talking about you. I don't know, I don't like you. You always doing good stuff for me. And they act like they don't understand you. What you've done is you create a barrier and a wall, and later on we say, we're getting along good right now. Can they come over? They can't come to my house. All the stuff they didn't say. Where'd that come from? You're talking too much. Matter of fact, so there's Samson identifies. First thing Samson did when he met his first wife, messed him up. He talked to her too little. He just said, I saw a woman in the temple, go get her for me. His conversation was just go get her. There was too little conversation. Then later on, the marriage went bad because she talked too much. She told his secrets. So the point is that you got to know the balance in the situation. You can't share everything with your family. Love them, care for them, but there's some things you need therapy for, and your family is not your therapist. They tell us in counseling two things. So you don't counsel family and you don't counsel friends. They're just too close to you.
And then the fourth reason blended families fail is because of values.
Yeah, you have to have the same set of values.
Yes.
If you're torn in your belief system, and one thinks one way, the other thinks another way, and your values are torn, you find yourself in a relationship component that makes it very difficult to function together. You want to go out and get drunk and get high in the backyard. I want to have prayer at the house, and we got these values all confused, and that is important to comprehend. Opposites can attract, but sometimes opposites, because they're too opposite, are not healthy for your relationship or for your life. But there's some things that we can do to create harmony in blended family. We've talked about some barriers, things that hurt them, but there's some things that can be done actually to bring them closer together.
So you have to first know your mate.
Yeah.
I have to know you.
Yeah.
And because if I don't know you, then we can't resolve conflicts, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So you have to know the person that you're going to be with. Spend time to get inside their mind, be reflective and listening and trying to grow a closer bond together. And beyond that reflectiveness also, you got to know their children. If they have a child, and each child is different. I'm going to take all your kids together. They're all, each person are different people. So you got to take the time to find out, who are these people? Who are these children? What are the concerns that they have? I need to take the time to understand them, understand their worldview.
Because the children, they have concerns, they have fears, they have questions. You know, they're not good at verbalizing how they feel, and they need us. They need you, they need me, they need you to explain what's happening. So especially within the blended family system.
Sometimes when people get with someone, they just think it's about them as adults and act like their children don't even matter. But your children do have questions that concern them. They wonder, will I see my grandparents again? How is it going to affect that? They may wonder, is my last name going to change? Or is my uncle still going to be my uncle? They wonder things about, are we still going to be going to church, the same one, or going at all anymore? They don't know how's my life going to change.
Or will my mom and my dad come to my game? I mean, there's just so much.
Yeah, I mean, these are factors that affect their mindset. Why even questions like, Mom, why am I not good enough?
Oh, yeah.
Dad, why am I not enough for you? Why you need somebody else inside your life? And who will I be once this happens? I mean, I know who I am now, but who will I be when we move to this new position, this new family relationship? And will I fit in? Will I like them? Will they like me? What if they don't like me? Will I lose the friends I have right now?
Will you have time for me? And then this is the biggest one. Is this my fault?
Yeah.
Is this my fault?
So all these pieces play an important part in why it's so essential to have a conversation with your children, to allow them to understand the dynamics of what's moved you to where you are, so you can learn the principle of how to understand our backdrop. Talk to your children. If you're blending a family together, if they're already blended, take some time, sit down with them and hear them out. Hearing someone out doesn't mean you agree with them, but they need to feel like they have a place they can talk and be heard, and you can challenge their ideas when you know what their ideas are. You can't be so solid and strong to say it's just this way here. That doesn't work. You want to help them to understand. Even God doesn't just tell you, just do this without an answer. Everything he tells us to do, it does make good sense, and the child of God ought to seek to comprehend how to become better and make it better. We've talked about the family system. We talked about the components that affected our families and got them to where they are. We've tried to explain how the system functions, how we operate inside of it. We talked extensively already about about blended families and how they operate, to give you an understanding of the components, that the strains they deal with. Before we close on this moment together, we do want to at least touch on this issue of Boomerang families, a very key component for your consideration to think about, because it's an important part of the world we're living in right now.
Yeah, it's a very growing trend, because about 1980, it says that 1 out of 10 graduates moved back home.
Yeah.
In 2022, it says 1 out of 3 students moved back home.
So in 1980, it was 1 in 10.
Yes.
And in 2022, rather, it's 1 of 3. That tells you a lot of people are trying to get back home.
And then it says, the statistic says that in July of 2022, that 50% of all 18 to 29-year-olds lived with at least one parent.
Half of the young people from the age of 18 to 29 in 2022 live with at least one parent that year. And
so there are issues that needs to be considered when it comes to the adult children returning home.
Yeah. So we want to share this with you before we close out tonight, because it's really key to understand this, and I will even give you a contractual agreement that we did. First of all, let me share with you some parental concerns that happen when a child comes back home. The parents in the home, those who are the householders, they have a concern about an increase of expenses. They're aware, because these grown-ups are coming back to the house. It's going to cost me more money with you being inside my house. And it's key to have the understanding that with each other. Understand, anticipate it. Okay, I got a concern. I may not share it with you, but your parents are thinking, I got a concern. This is going to cost us more money. A second issue is the issue of rules in the family. You know, the parents think, well, they're coming back now. You're not a child anymore. You're grown. So I mean, like, you know, what I do? Do I teach you like in your 20s or your 30s? I treat you like you're 14? I mean, so family rules is another strong barrier in this change of relationships.
Yes. Concern about their children's happiness once they return. That's another major issue.
It is. You know, well, I'm afraid you're depressed and you got anxiety. You lost your job. You lost your situation. Now you're coming back to the house. I mean, are you going to be okay? I don't want to stress you out coming back in the household. So I want you to be happy, and this is your home. But I mean, you know, but it's a parental concern at this stage.
And then when they come back, their sense of entitlement it can be overbearing.
So parents also think, when they come back, now they're going to act like they're grown? You know, tell me what to do and run my house. I mean, you know, they feel entitled to do what they want to do, and they were grown in their own place now, and they've been gone for 5 or 7 years or whatever. Now they want to come back. I mean, do they feel entitled to do whatever they want to do in this household? So parents are dealing with that kind of a concern as well.
And then this is a big one: jeopardizing the parents' retirement.
Yeah, because now I thought we was through with you. We thought you were off and flying and handling your business, and now you come back, and you know, we had planned out with this little edge we had left here to be fine for the umpteen years, but now you about to come bite into what we had planned to live on, and I'm trying to figure out, can we handle that? So these are concerns the parents themselves have. So you have the parents or the adults in the household who open the doors. These are concerns inside your heart that you're dealing with, but not just those, also
the children, the adult children, they're coming back with issues too, like they're feeling career stuck. You know, some of them who went to school for a certain career walked away from that career, so they're just there. You know,
the market has changed. I can't find a job in my area. I mean, what do I do now? I mean, I'm career stuck. I did an education area. I got student loans based on this, and now I don't have a job in that area. Nobody wants to hire me anymore. I mean, they feel they're stuck in a career. I jump into this, and now I don't know where to go. So they feel torn and stuck as well.
And then they are psychologically distressed.
Yeah.
They are just distressed out.
And never forget this: disappointment comes from unrealized expectations. I'm expecting a certain thing to happen. I'm going to leave here, go to school, get that education, get out there in the big world, and next time y'all see me, I'll be having my own fly my own jet and having a big old place. Y'all come hang out with me. And now all of a sudden, I have to go back home, go back to my parents' house. I mean, I'm psychologically distressed. I mean, this isn't making any sense. I mean, I'm a failure. I had all these plans together and they look like they're not going to happen.
Those are some of their concerns.
Yeah.
And then another one is debt and present funds.
Yeah. And then now I had debt before I came back. When I left home, I had some student loan debt, and I got credit card bills and auto bills and other expenses I got to cover, and I don't have the money for that. I lost my job.
Not only do they have student fund problems, but the parents may have cosign.
Bless your heart.
That's another issue.
So we have a situation here that is expanded because of all these dynamics affecting your family relationship. So there's debt in the present funds. Do I have enough money to do anything? Can I buy myself a sandwich? Can I get a tank of gas? I mean, how am I going to survive here when I don't have a decent job anymore to live on? In conjunction with that, we have strained peer relationships, right? You got now your grown up comes back home. You got two kids already hadn't got out yet. They walk back up in the house and, well, I'm back. Well, now the younger peers was glad to see you walk out the door, and now they're thinking, so where you gonna stay? You take my spot? No, I took your room when you left. I mean, so now you got these peer relationships which are kind of different. And how do you function inside this peer change when this grown-up person who's no longer a child is back in the household? And do they try to treat with a younger sibling like they're the parent? I mean, all these components can confuse and stress the family dynamics.
And then don't forget, there's the family role. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, the role. How do you see this person in the family? And also, because they're coming back home and they see their old friends who are excelling and doing great, and they say things, well, all my friends are doing well and everybody's doing great, and I'm just stuck right here, and I can't seem to put nothing together, and I don't know what's wrong with me, and so I got my peers, they want to go out and do things, I want to hang out with them and be with them, but I hang out with them, sometimes I feel bad, I can't even go out there with them and buy a sandwich for myself. Could you lend me some money to get a sandwich to hang out with my friends as a grown up? I mean, these are dynamics that affect your adult child. These are inside their mind. So we have looked at for this Boomerang family, which are the people that left home, and Laura said it comes back. We've seen some of the strains and stresses that the parents are dealing with. We've seen some of the strains and stresses that the child, or for adult child who comes back home, is dealing with. And thirdly, we're going to look at just how we bring these pieces together. What's a parent to do? I mean, how do you do this thing? How do you work this process through? How do you do it without losing your mind and losing the relationship with your child? I mean, after all, once you start something up, it's how you start something decides on how you finish it. So we're going to share a story with you about one of our child dynamics. One of our sons had lived in North Carolina, and the oldest one, and when he got out, he came to stay with us in Indiana, and he stayed in the house about a week, and after about a week in the household, I said, well, son, I ain't talked to you. He said, yeah. I said, listen, what do you have in mind? What are your plans? He said, well, I want to, I'm going to stay here and get on my feet. That's okay. That's fine. That's fine. The oldest son. We're a blended family, and this is my oldest son. So I said, well, that's fine. I said, there's a few things you need to know. I said, the first thing you need to know is that I haven't changed. The man I was when you were coming up in this household is the man I am now. I'm the same person I was then. When I go to worship, everybody goes to worship. Certain things don't happen inside my house. I don't have any kind of people come to my house any time of night. Nobody comes to my house drunk and high. I don't have that here. I mean, I'm the same person you've always known. Number one. Number two is this. You got to get a job, which I think you understand that. I expect you to work. Number three, I would encourage you to go back to college, but you choose not that. That's your choice to choose that or not. Fourthly, I will give you 3 months. In 3 months, I need to know that you can have your own transportation and your own place. And to make sure you have what you need in 3 months, I will manage your money. And in 3 months, you'll be on your own. And so he did what any good child would do. He went talk to his mother. And he told his mother, it don't make any kind of sense. I'm a grown man. How you going to manage my money, handle my business? So Laura mentioned to me, well, Jamar said he did.
Behind closed doors.
We talked about it, and we talked about it. And so I said, well, I'll talk to him again. So I sat him down. I said, son, I understand you have some disagreement about what I'm saying. He said, yeah, I'm a grown man. I mean, how you going to manage my money? I'm a grown man. If I'm working, I can manage my own money. I don't need you to do that for me. I said, you're right. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I'm with you 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I have no business managing a dime of your money. And I'll be honest with you, you misunderstood me. I don't want to manage your money. I don't want to manage any of your money. So I agree with you. I'm not saying I've got to manage your money. All I'm saying is, if you live in my house, I will manage your money, because I'll make sure in 3 or 4 months you got your own place. But that's a choice. I don't have to do that. It's a decision you have the right to make. If you want me to do that with you, I would do that. If you don't want me to do that with you, I would not do that. If I thought you could manage it on your own, had proven a pattern of managing it, no problem. You can show me what you're doing. But since I don't think you have the capacity, I disagree. I'm not going to do it that way. We'll have to do it my way or else. I said, but here's an option. This is my plan. And I've always told my children this. I will pay for my plan. I will not pay for your plan. I said, but I will do for you. We got family in Texas. We're in Indiana at the time, and other parts of the country. If you want to go, we'll buy a ticket for you to go somewhere else, if that's what you want to do. I said, but if you want to stay here, the plan is for you. We'll work with you and get you at your own place, your own stuff, in a decent period of time, and that's what we offer. He said, well, I think I'm ready to leave then. I said, okay. So we got together. We bought him a ticket and got him back to Texas. About a year later, he called me back up. He said, well, things haven't come together like I thought. I said, really? He said, yeah. And I'm thinking about, I want to come back. I want to come back to Indiana and try your plan. I said, you've been knowing me all your life. And if you know anything about me, you ought to know already, that was last year's plan. Right. And all your life, anytime I offer you a plan, if you pass it up, you can pass it up. But the next plan is never as good as the last plan. I said, so the option is this. You can still come back, and we will pay. We'll pay for you. We'll pay for 3 months in your place. And sink, drown, or swim, it's going to be in your hands. I'm not managing it, because you didn't want me to manage that. Now, the point is this, that it was important for him to understand the dynamics of my household would function. Interestingly enough, about some years later, my great nephew called me up from Texas. He said, listen, Stan, I want to come, can I come up there? And I actually talked to him after my parents died. I said, listen, if you want to come up here with us, we will help you get on your feet. But I'm really clear about what that means. I put together a contract because we love people and I care for them, and I will do everything in my power for you. But what I will not have is a misunderstanding. What I will not have is any level of confusion. So I put a contract together that define, here's what my expectations are, and here's what I'm willing to do, and here's our offer. We're going to meet to talk about your financial plans, and here's what we're talking about how you're going to get the training that you need for a job that will take care of you. And here's the time frame we're going to work on for right now. I'll expend the time frame if you do these things here right. And we began to work together, and it worked out very well initially. But I want to share this with you. I will make sure you get a copy of the contract that we put together to share with my great nephew, because the point is this, that I tell people all the time, you don't let someone move back in and then try to talk about how it's going to function. You make all your agreements and understandings and support before they get back in. Now, I do understand. It feels kind of impersonal to say, well, can I come back home? Of course you can come back. Well, we got to put a contract. A contract? What that mean, a contract? I got to put a contract? I mean, well, I'm your child. I know you're my child, and I love you. But I want to keep on loving you. So the only way we can do that is making sure that you and I are on the same page, because I understand what happens when it's not written down. You interpret it one way, I interpret it another way. I thought you said this. No. I love you, and I'm going to give you every ounce of support I can. I'll make sure if I can do it, I'll make sure everything I do works to your greatest benefit. But it's going to have to be done in a way that's systematic and organized. You need clear family rules. I told both of them, you can't come here high. You can't have nobody staying the night inside my house. There's certain rooms in my house you're not even welcome in. Go in my bedroom. There's no reason to be in my bedroom unless you did get something I sent you there to go get. Things around this house belong to me. You can use them when you ask for them, but you can't be visiting here and acting like somehow you bought this stuff. I'm not the visitor, you're the visitor. So I'm clear about my expectations. And you know, we've had Laura's brothers and sisters have all lived with us a different time. Everybody, we have a great time together with a great family love and care. And everybody knows we're clear. We're clear on how we're gonna function. So there's no confusion. You need clear time table talks. How much time do you need? I need a few months. Okay. And what you gonna do? I'm gonna get a job. How you gonna get a job? I'm gonna apply. What kind of job you looking for? Well, you getting all in my business. Oh, I'm sorry. If I'm invading on your business for you to stay in my house, maybe this is the wrong place to stay. I'm gonna get you on your feet. This is not an indefinite plan, so you need an open financial plan. What's your financial plans? What's your situation look like? I'm gonna help you learn how to get out of the debt that you're in. Your family needs also, and we also will give you emotional support. When you bring an adult back into your home, you need emotional support. You need other people who can talk to and strengthen you. One last story. Had a sister at the church there in Indianapolis. A son was getting out of prison, 20-some years in prison for a crime, some crimes he committed. I told her, she said, my son's getting out. I said, sis, please take my advice. I'll give you a copy of the form I use. You need to put a contract together. People will agree with you on anything before they get in. Okay. Well, she didn't do it. He comes in the house, and what is he doing? He's out at night, any time of day or night. May use her car without asking for it, getting her purse. I mean, he just do all kind of stuff in the house. I understand. You set no parameters, you set no guidelines, and he continued to function that way. Well, bless his heart. About 2.5, 3 years later, they found him had taken some drugs and he killed himself with it. He's making some unhealthy decisions. It wasn't helping him to just stay in my house and not change.
With no rules.
Your home needs to be a place this is a therapeutic place to come and get the help that you need. I will do what I can to help get you on the next set of steps in a different direction. You're going back to class for school for training or some development? Great, I'll support you. You can stay here as long as you need to get the tools that you need to go forward. But as long as we understand the goal is for you to go forward. I cannot have my grown children and my grandkids all in a house together. I'm 90 years old trying to feed and take care of everybody and dying every day. That makes no earthly sense. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to help you become responsible and accountable by putting a plan together to make you better, make you great. And that's why the Boomerang family, I think, is key, because in this culture we're in right now, because things are tighter, but because we've been in third world countries, understand things aren't, as they say. Let me, two more illustrations. Our youngest son was in college, right? So he called me up, he said, Dad, I said, yes, son. He said, I'm hungry. I said, you're hungry? He said, yeah, I'm hungry. I said, well, you don't have nothing to eat? He said, no. I said, well, go to the fridge and tell what's in the fridge. He called out some things in the fridge. So, well, look inside the pantry. What's in the pantry? So I got, Roman numerals and other stuff. I said, okay, understand this. I said, when you're hungry, it's a matter of your stomach, not your mouth. Which means that a sandwich will solve your problem. I want you to learn that you can survive on less than you think you can survive on. And I had another son call me and said, Dad, I got clothes I got to wash. I don't have money to go to the laundromat. Okay, your mother and I have at times in our past got a tub of water and put some dishwashing liquid, detergent, soap. They all do the same thing. You put it in a tub, you scrub the clothes out, you rinse them out, you hang them up in the house, and you can do your own clothes. The point is that I've been in third world countries. Folks do it in Guatemala, they do it in India, all over the world. People live like this here. But if you feel you're too good to survive based on what you can afford to survive on, you got more lessons to learn. Sometimes we spoil people into thinking they got to have the most expensive things that it took my wife and I 40-some years to get it. You gonna start off where we ended at? No, that's not wise. I'm not helping you destroy your own life. I'm gonna teach her to think about the present and understand how to prepare for your future.
That's it.
So when we understand these dynamics, it is key to give these Boomerang families the help that they need. But I will give you a copy of the contract. You ain't got to follow it directly. It may be a guideline to assist you. I mean, some folk think I'm a little more difficult. I respect that. But the point is this, that we're going to have a great time. I want to see you be successful. I mentor men and women around the world. I put time and energy into them. And because they take that information we share and build on top of that, they do well. And if you practice those principles, you'll be able to empower your family, give them what they need. And when it's all over and said and done, y'all gonna still love each other because you were clear. We pray this presentation has been helpful for you, to give you insight to understanding what happened to our families to get us to where we are. The importance of comprehending the impact of the family system and how it makes us where we really are. And therefore to understand how it blends into blended families and the strain that they deal with. And we didn't even touch so much on blended families as far as the distinction between whether it's a daughter or a son and what a girl feels with a father. There's a lot to cover in that area as well, all by itself. And then closing with the Boomerang family, it's key to understand these components are important. And even if you have somehow stepped too far in, companies have strikes. You know what a strike is? A strike means we're functioning a certain way right now, and now we've come to a place where we're not agreeing anymore. A strike means that somebody got to get out and renegotiate our contract on how we're going to function. That's how companies do it, and sometimes how family do it. Love my children. They know my children, my grandkids. I mean, we tight, love them all tightly. But they all understand, and relatives, cousins all know. If you go to their house, be ready. I got some nephews in Texas, Southeast Texas, who won't come stay with us because, well, no, we don't live over there. I respect your decision, because if you're here, you're going to do well. If you don't choose this, if you like it, I love it. It's your choice. May God bless you. I pray this time been a blessing for you, baby.
Love you. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Prayerfully tomorrow night. Be blessed.
Yes.